My name is Juniper Hale. I'm your Midoka's. 3 weeks ago, I sat in a law office in Burlington, Vermont, and watched my whole family celebrate a fortune while I held a faded envelope with nothing inside but a phone number. My sister laughed so hard she knocked over her water glass. My uncle raised his coffee cup like it was champagne. The attorney just watched me the way you watch someone step onto ice that hasn't frozen all the way through. Everyone in that room had already spent the money in their heads. And me, I was the joke. The dropout. The girl who restocked shelves at a hardware store. They'd written me off years ago. And that envelope was supposed to be the final proof. But none of them knew what happens when the joke picks up the phone and dials the number. If this kind of story is your thing, hit subscribe. But only if you mean it. Drop your city and the time where you're watching from. I love seeing where this reaches. Now let me take you back to the morning it all started. The phone rings at 5:50 a.m. I'm lacing my boots for the opening shift at Cobblestone Hardware in Bellows Falls. It's my mother, Renata. She doesn't call before 9 unless someone's dead or she wants something. That morning, it was both. Your grandfather passed last night, she said, flat as a countertop. The reading is Thursday, 2 o'clock. Dress like you belong there. Then she hung up. My grandfather, Walter Hale, was 84. He built Hale Timber and Restoration out of one roadside sawmill in 1979 into a company that restored old barns and built custom homes across 3 counties. To me, he was just Grandpa Walt, the man with wood shavings in his flannel pockets who taught me to sand a tabletop until it felt like glass. Every Sunday, his workshop, just the two of us. I drove out to his farmhouse. My sister Camille's car was parked crooked in the driveway. Like always. My uncle Roland stood on the porch with a mug of something that wasn't coffee, telling his wife, "It's finally time." My mother met me at the door. I already spoke to the attorney. He's leaving things to the people who earned them. Then she walked off. I already knew what that meant. 4 months earlier, at Thanksgiving, my mother had run her usual wins of the year round robin. Camille announced a second funding round for her wellness app. Everyone clapped. Roland talked about a new development deal. Said strategic vision twice. Then it was my turn. My mother paused like a comedian setting up a punchline. And Juniper still at that hardware store. Stocking paint cans. Soft laughter. The kind that cuts deeper than loud laughter ever could. From the end of the table. Grandpa Walt tapped his glass. She manages that store, he said. Inventory. Payroll. Staff schedules. That's called responsibility. My mother waved a hand. Dad. Don't baby her. Ladder. In his workshop. He held my eyes a long moment. Don't ever let a piece of paper tell you who you are, he said quietly. I've taken care of things. Juniper. I didn't ask what he meant. I wish I had. Thursday morning. I wore the only blazer I own and drove to Burlington. Camille stepped out of her Audi in a tailored black dress. Roland pulled up in a Range Rover. Sunglasses on despite the clouds. My mother arrived in a rideshare she'd quietly sold her car months ago. Something I only knew from an online listing. In the lobby, I overheard Camille and Roland near the water cooler. At least 3 million in accounts. Camille murmured. And the company, Roland said. Who runs it now? They didn't notice me sit down across from them. Camille's eyebrows lifted. Oh, you came. That's sweet. I'm sure Grandpa left you something. A card. Maybe. The attorney, Roger Pratt. Read through the will. Roland got the lake house and $750,000. My mother got a condo and $550. Ling ling ling. Camille and her husband Derek got $450,000 and the investment portfolio. Then Roger reached the last page. And to Juniper, Marie Hale, one sealed envelope, to be opened only by the named recipient. He slid it across. My name in Grandpa Walt's handwriting. The ink faded with age. Inside a 10-digit phone number and one line. Call when you're ready. W. H. The silence held for maybe 3 seconds. Then Camille laughed. Unfiltered. Maybe it's a hotline for financial counseling. My mother's shoulders shook too. The whole room followed. Roger Pratt didn't laugh. He just watched me the way you watch someone about to open a door they can't close again. Outside. My mother caught up with me. He knew you couldn't handle real money. Juniper. Call it. Get the help. Roland put a hand on my car roof. If that number has anything to do with the company, it goes through me. I said nothing. My phone buzzed the family group chat. Camille had posted times. Update. Juniper got an envelope. Grandpa's last joke. 3 laughing emojis. A heart from my mother. I sat in my car. Locked the doors. And dialed. It rang twice. A calm, measured voice answered. Hello. I've been expecting your call. Who is this? My name is Desmond Cole. Your grandfather appointed me trustee 20 years ago. We need to talk. Miss Hale. That moment, sitting in that parking lot, was when my whole life split into before and after. If you've ever been dismissed by people who were supposed to love you, you know exactly what that silence feels like right before someone finally says your name like it matters. Tell me in the comments, have you ever opened something everyone called worthless and found out it was everything? Your grandfather established an irrevocable trust in 2004. Desmond said, You're the sole beneficiary. I watched a bird land on Roland's Range Rover through the windshield. Why me? I asked. Your grandfather told me this exactly. The one who shows up when I fall. Not for what I can give her. But because I fell, that's the one I trust with everything I built. He watched this family for 20 years after that. You were the only one who ever showed up. My throat tightened. There's a condition. If you'd never called, the entire trust would have transferred permanently to a land conservation charity. Your family would have kept only what was in the will. I pressed my forehead to the wheel. I'll be there tomorrow at 10. I said, Your grandfather spent 20 years making sure the right person would pick up this phone. He said, You just proved him right. I hung up. And for the first time all day, I cried. Not over money, because Grandpa Walt believed in me before I believed in myself. That night, my mother hosted a remembrance dinner, the Hale family way of grieving. Apparently, was opening expensive wine and dividing up furniture. Roland sat in Grandpa Walt's chair without hesitation. I'll be taking over operations, he announced. Nobody challenged him. Juniper, my mother said. That bright, dangerous tone. Want to show everyone your envelope? Maybe we can all call the number and see who answers. A few cousins laughed. My Aunt Priscilla didn't. I left before dessert. Back in my 650 square foot apartment above a laundromat. I laid the envelope on the table and remembered the year I wrote those same initials on get well cards. Every day. I was 20. Grandpa Walt had a minor stroke. My mother said he had a nurse. Roland said he was too busy. Camille was at UVM and didn't come home for a month. I dropped my semester. Drove out every morning. Sorted his pills. Read him the news when his eyes gave out. 4 months later, his recovery was remarkable. I never went back to school. The scholarship lapsed. My mother told her friends I just wasn't cut out for college. Friday morning. Desmond Cole's office sat above a bookshop on Church Street. A photo behind his desk showed him and Grandpa Walt. Decades younger. In front of a half-built barn. First project we ever worked on together. He said. He built it. I did the paperwork. He laid out the documents. In 2004. Your grandfather created an irrevocable trust. It's separate from the will, it can't be touched by any challenge to it. It holds 100% of Hale Timber and Restoration, plus the development portfolio and investment accounts. Current estimated value, approximately $34 million. I didn't reach for the number. I don't have a business degree. I said, I sell paint and lumber. He slid over a signature page. You have 30 days to accept or decline. There's also a personal letter, released only after you sign. I didn't sign yet. I need to think. He nodded. That's exactly what he expected you to say. Before I left, he opened a video call. Marlene Ostrovsky, acting CEO for 3 years, studied me like a contractor checking for cracks. I don't need an MBA. She said, I need to know you're honest. Walter said you were. Take this, and I'll train you 12 months. After that, it's yours. It also looks like dealing with your uncle. She added, he's called me 4 times this week demanding the office keys. I changed the locks. Desmond added quietly. Over the last year, Roland submitted more than $180,000 in inflated expense reports. Walter flagged it but never finalized the paperwork. That single detail explained more than anything else could have. Driving home, my mother called. You owe this family that information. I don't owe anyone anything. Mom, I said, and hung up. Camille texted privately, my lawyer says any trust can be challenged for diminished capacity. Grandpa had a stroke history. If you're hiding something, it'll go worse for you in court. I didn't reply. Saturday. My mother summoned the whole family to the farmhouse. Roland stood by the fireplace and proposed the family authorize him as interim director. We need to know what's in Juniper's envelope. Cammy said. It was addressed to me. I said. It's mine. Roland's voice hardened. You don't have a seat at this table. If Dad gave you anything, it was the mistake of a man at the end of his life. We'll prove that in court. I stood. I'm meeting my attorney this week. After that, you'll have your answer. I walked out. The following Friday, I signed everything. Desmond handed me the personal letter. Grandpa Walt's handwriting slightly shakier this time. Juniper, I watched this family a long time. I love them all. But I know who builds and who burns through. You were the only one who came when I fell and never asked what I'd leave you. Everyone else showed up for Thanksgiving. You showed up in February. I'm not giving you money. I'm giving you responsibility. That's the only inheritance worth having. Take care of what I built. And take care of yourself first. Walt, he added one more thing, a no contest clause. Anyone who challenged the trust would have their inheritance under the will frozen for years. Saturday came. Roland took the armchair by the fireplace. Relaxed. Whispering to my mother. They thought I'd come to surrender. At 2 o'clock, I walked in with Desmond. Who's this? Roland asked. My attorney. Desmond laid it out plainly, the 2004 trust. Separate from the will. Untouchable. Holding 100% of the company. Current value approximately $34 million. Sole beneficiary Juniper Marie Hale. Already transferred. Roland was on his feet instantly. This is fraud. My father did not have the capacity. Desmond placed 3 folders on the table. Independent capacity evaluations from 2004, 2014, and 2023. All from board-certified physicians unaffiliated with the family. Camille knocked the coffee table, standing up. She sells paint for a living. And she gets $34 million. My mother's eyes went glassy. You won't do this to your own family. You told me in that parking lot I couldn't handle real money. I said. Steady. You told the whole table at Thanksgiving I was your disappointment. Don't talk to me about family now. Derek. Calm as ever. pulled Camille toward the door. It's irrevocable. There's a no contest clause. We're leaving. Roland walked out slower, like a man leaving a hospital. My mother sat frozen. Mascara smudged. Staring at the carpet Grandpa Walt picked out 30 years ago. My Aunt Priscilla stayed behind and touched my arm. I always wondered why he kept that workshop running when nobody visited. Now I know someone did. Monday. I started at headquarters. Marlene didn't coddle me. And she didn't let me drown either. Within a week, I learned Roland had quietly placed his son Preston into a role he'd never once shown up for in 11 months. I approved a standard 90-day review. Same as any employee. He failed every benchmark and was let go with severance. He enrolled in an electrician's apprenticeship on his own the next month. Roland called. Furious. Threatening a lawsuit. I reminded him about the no contest clause. He hung up. My mother burned through her inheritance in under 4-month-old debts. A new car. Appearances that mattered more to her than stability. Camille's company nearly collapsed. She came to me, humbled, and asked only to compete for a vendor contract through the normal process. Her product was genuinely good. We signed a pilot. It became a 2-year contract after her platform cut our maintenance response time by nearly a third. 5 months in, Marlene handed me a folder, a 40-unit affordable housing project Grandpa Walt had drafted years earlier in Bellows Falls. The town where nobody ever thought twice about me. Roland had killed it, calling the margins too thin. I approved it without hesitation. We named it Walt's Corner. 6 months after the reading, Roland called, his voice smaller than I'd ever heard it. I dropped the lawsuit. There's no case. A pause. Is there a place for me at the company? I told him the truth. Real experience doesn't disappear. But he'd go through the same hiring process as anyone else. No guaranteed title. And the expense reports would be formally addressed. He agreed. And for the first time in his life, he didn't argue. 1 year later. Thanksgiving. The farmhouse, my house now. Though I still can't quite say that out loud. Grandpa Walt's chair sits empty at the head of the table with a jar of black-eyed Susans on the seat. His favorite. My mother came early and peeled potatoes without being asked. For the first time in a decade. Camille calls me Junie now. Roland arrived with Preston, who drove himself in a truck he bought with his own paycheck. After dinner, I walked out to the workshop alone. Handplanes still hung on the pegboard. I sat on his old stool, worn smooth under decades of his hands, and pressed my palm flat against the same spot. Thank you, Grandpa, I whispered. The bulb flickered once-old wiring. Probably, and I smiled anyway. That's my story. Money was never the real inheritance. The real one was being believed in by someone before I believed in myself. If the people who are supposed to love you have decided you're not enough, I can't promise you $34 million. But your worth isn't decided at anyone's dinner table. It's built quietly, in the hours nobody's watching. Tell me in the comments if your grandfather left you a yellowed envelope with nothing but a phone number inside. Would you call? Or would you toss it? I'm genuinely curious. And if you're new here, hit subscribe. I share stories like this every week. Thanks for staying until the end. That means more than you know.